Hey guys, welcome back. Thanks for joining me for another video. In this week's video, we are going to be talking about being non-reactive. I love this topic because it's something that you really have to consciously practice if you are dealing with a person who's not the easiest person to be around. So in this week's video, I want to give you why being non-reactive is so important. And I also want to give you some really easy steps that you can begin practicing so you yourself can be non-reactive when you are dealing with this person. This is a really popular topic because oftentimes you are dealing with someone who's very unreasonable, someone who's very selfish, someone who will say things or do things that doesn't even seem like the norm. And so it can be very easy for you to just always be reactive to this person. And when you start to learn that you're trying to get water from a rock and you don't want to be reactive to this person because you know on some level it's just bringing your energy down, on some level the person's probably getting a rise out of it, and you want to really learn how to be a little bit more in control of your emotions, this is definitely something that you're going to want to pay attention to. Now, the first thing is when you react to someone, I want you to really understand this. When you react to someone, you are wanting them to change. Now, you kind of have to start with owning that. And the reason being is that when you fully own that you're coming to the table wanting someone else to change, you can accept that that's not going to happen, that it's not your responsibility to teach someone right or wrong, that you're not able to control every situation and what someone does and how they react and things that they say. What's really going on here is you're struggling and being very uncomfortable with what this person is doing and saying. And when you kind of fully own and take responsibility for how you feel, then you actually have more control over yourself, because you being very reactive means that this person is actually controlling your emotional state, which is what we don't want. I think a lot of people just aren't aware of that really small, simple factor. And when they start to become more mindful of it, they can actually have more self-control when they're dealing with someone who's toxic in front of them. Now, I totally get it. They might be in front of you saying the most hurtful things, doing the most hurtful things, and you're kind of sitting there like, Steph, really? Like, how can I be non-reactive to someone who is so hurtful, who's so spiteful, who is just saying the most hurtful things or doing these things that are absolutely ridiculous? 100%. You will always get my validation for that, but it comes back to you can't control the other person. And so wanting them to see that what they're doing is hurtful and that it's bothering you is probably not going to happen, because why are they doing what they're doing? They're doing what they're doing because they're out of control, because they're not getting their way, because they're not able to manipulate you. So when you understand that concept that hurt people, that what someone is projecting out onto you, even though it feels like a personal attack on you, is actually not about you. And the biggest thing with being non-reactive is understanding that what is happening in front of you, you're taking very personally. So either you want the situation to change, you want this person to not be selfish, not be hurtful, not say these things, not do these things, which you can't control that. And you have to learn how to accept, and we'll get into that later on. But the other key thing is that you're being very reactive because everything that this person is giving you, you're taking very personally. You're taking it as a personal attack. And while it might be aimed right at you, you have to understand why someone is doing what they're doing. When you really get that concept that what you're witnessing is essentially a tantrum that this person is displaying to you or displaying to the world by saying these things, by wanting to cut you, by wanting to be passive aggressive, by doing all of these things, when you start to see that people that do emotionally abusive tactics are actually people that are really hurting inside, it doesn't mean that you yourself don't get affected by possibly something hurtful that someone says or does, but it does mean that you have more self-control in that moment to not take what this person is doing personally. You kind of see that what's happening is this person is feeling very uncomfortable. They don't have control. They don't like not getting their way. And so when an adult who doesn't know how to self-soothe, who doesn't understand the concept of boundaries, will behave in this way by essentially throwing a tantrum, and the tantrum is coming right at you, you're taking it personally, and then you're being reactive, or you're taking it on and you want this person to change. Control is one of the biggest things that someone who is toxic will really struggle with, and they seek it. They want to have control over the narrative. They want to have control over what people think of you or what people think of them. And so living in a world of wanting control in all of these situations, it's impossible to have. And so when a toxic person isn't able to gain control over the situation or being able to manipulate you, or your boundaries not being flexible or bendable like they used to be, then you're going to get backlash. And what I like to call backlash is essentially an adult tantrum. When you see these tantrums, when you see these words, when you see these behaviors, and you begin to feel, not only are you seeing it happening, which means now you're emotionally out of the situation. You're actually just watching what's happening in front of you rather than being in the situation and being so reactive. When you're able to take that step back and witness what's really going on, you have so much more self-control in that moment. You're calmer, you're able to handle the situation differently. And here's the thing, the difficult part I think for most people is understanding those basic concepts that I just told you about, but also it's going to be in the moment having to engage with this person in real time and not knowing what next tactic or what next thing they're going to kind of throw at you to try to get you, to try to cut you. And what I like to always tell people, because this is really the truth, any person, any abuser, any person who's really toxic or unhealthy is always going to use a couple of different things, because in the past, when they did these things, they knew that it worked on you. And so when you start to learn what are these things that this person will do to really cut me, to really hurt me, to try to bother me, then you can be even more self-aware in the moment that, oh, this is the usual stuff that they do and it's not working anymore. I think it's when we become a little bit unaware, a little bit unconscious to what's actually going on that we become very reactive. So it's really just about slowing down, understanding what's going on, understanding that I'm feeling uncomfortable because I want you to change, or I'm feeling uncomfortable because I'm taking what you're doing so personally. When you start to understand that you have to accept actually that this person is not going to be the person that you want them to be. They're not going to behave in the way that you would probably behave, and accepting someone for where they are mentally, emotionally, maturity-wise, energetically, then you're able to understand what you're really dealing with. I think a lot of times we project what we want people to do, i.e. wanting people to change, or you not having control over them or the situation. When you start to relinquish that need to control them and starting to accept that, okay, this is what this person does when they feel uncomfortable, when they're feeling hurt, when they're not in control, and this is what I'm getting. I'm getting remnants of all of that hurt that's going on inside of that person. Then you don't take it personally. Then you're able to take a step back and actually witness what's going on. Then you have more self-control to actually slow down your interactions with this person so you can start calmly stating those boundaries or calmly affirming what is acceptable, what's not acceptable, calmly disengaging when you need to, when you see that things are starting to get a little out of hand, or this person's starting to be a little passive aggressive, or they're trying to be manipulative, or they're trying to shame you or guilt you. When you start to see that, then you can identify the emotional abusive tactic. And then you're able to actually start having more control over how you respond to this person. It is an absolute game changer. It will make you feel like the most confident person in the world, because there's something that's not obviously confident about feeling so out of control and being so reactive and just letting all that anger and frustration kind of take over. When you're able to really slow down and have more self-control over each step that you're taking, you feel so self-empowered, because what this person is doing is no longer working. And you start to see, not that this is really the goal, but you start to see the person in front of you really start to kind of crumble, because what they've always done isn't working anymore. And so they actually might become more abusive before things really start to settle down. And this is where you really have to practice this stuff. You really have to dive even deeper and have even more self-control. What I always tell people is, if you're starting to go toe-to-toe and you start to see that it's starting to escalate even further than it did before, this person is becoming even more hurtful than they ever were before, what I need you to do is learn how to disengage. Step one of disengaging is learning how to say what you think, how you feel, and then stopping. When we state our boundary when we state how we feel, when we state what we need from a person, when we can verbally communicate at that really healthy, confident level, that's when we stop. Because a confident person does not over-explain. A confident person does not feel the need to keep yapping on about why they feel the way they do and why it's so unacceptable, their behavior, and et cetera, et cetera. That doesn't need to happen. Boundaries is really just about stopping, saying what you need to say, and then disengaging and letting someone know that you're disengaging. Because if you leave a conversation and you don't really tell someone what you think, how you feel, and you don't really state that boundary that what they're doing is unacceptable and you're not engaging anymore in this conversation, when they start to use X, Y, and Z tactic on you, when they start to be passive aggressive or they start to shut down, or when they're verbally abusing you or they're yelling or whatever it is, if you're not able to spot that, verbally communicate that to that person, and then let them know that you're leaving now you're actually giving the silent treatment. And this is when your intentions are in the right place, meaning you want to do the right thing and you want to be healthy, but there are a couple of different steps that you're really missing. And one of them is real good communication. Now, remember, when you start to practice this and you're feeling so calm, you got this, you nailed this, they're going to throw something else at you, and it's going to get worse, and it's going to get a little bit more evil, or a little bit more really trying to cut you or really trying to make you feel guilty. There's going to be things that are going to be said or done that are really going to test your ability to stay calm around this person. That is essentially them throwing the bait at you to see if you're going to take it. So, okay, what I did last time didn't work. They didn't become reactive from that. Maybe I'll do this time. Maybe this is the thing that's really going to get to them. Now I'm really going to reach underneath what is acceptable and really try to cut this person. So again, if you're aware of that, if you're aware that, ooh, now you're really trying to you're hitting below the belt now. When you see this, you understand that you're witnessing a tantrum. When you see this, you can actually feel higher than, really feel like your best self, your healthiest self, because all that's happening is a person that's just not able to get what they want out of you. And that feels confident that now, or you will start to feel confident that what has always happened before is no longer working. What I always tell people is, at the end of the day, for you to really practice being super calm, super together, super confident, is what this person dreads the most, because they like drama. They like the reaction. They want to know that they're important to you. And so not giving someone what they know they really want, which is the reaction, honestly, that should be enough for you to really start to hold on to yourself. Again, I think in the background, as long as we're not taking what someone's doing and what someone's saying personally, then you will 100% feel unstoppable. You will 100% be able to do this with, I don't care who the person is, when you're not trying to control the situation anymore. You've accepted that this is what this person does. When they're feeling out of control or insecure or not good about themselves, they're not able to self-regulate their own emotions, which is why they're coming at you. When you don't take what someone does personally, if you can combine all of that, and you can start to practice slowing down your words and your communication, and even being more self-aware of your own feelings of, okay, I'm starting to feel it. It's starting to come to the surface now. When you can, and I need to disengage, when you can be aware of all of that, you will 100% be non-reactive. So I hope you have enjoyed this week's video. If you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to also subscribe if you have not already subscribed to this channel, and click on post notifications. And I'll see you guys next week.